Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio podcast and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Marina Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Jennifer Poole. Jennifer and I are going to be talking about chemical relaxers and hair straighteners. The question is, are they safe? And I think you know the answer to that. It's one of those questions that lawyers ask you when they already know the answer, right? And so it's those kind of feeding questions. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I am so excited to be, informing my audience and listeners regarding this topic, because information is always valuable. So let me give you a brief introduction to Jennifer before we get started. Jennifer Poole is the Director of Marketing at the California law firm of Nadrich & Cohen. Nadrich & Cohen was founded in 1990 and has since expanded to 14 offices throughout California. The firm handles all types of injury, defective product, and toxic exposure claims on behalf of individuals and their families. Jennifer has worked at the law firm since 2009, right after she graduated from Hofstra Law. She has quite literally lived from coast to coast, but calls Los Angeles home. So that's awesome. All right, so let's dive right in. So as by your introduction, you and your company, make claims regarding, toxic claims and personal injury claims. But right now, today, we're focusing on the chemical relaxers and hair straighteners. So right off the bat, can you talk to us or give us a backstory of a client that you've represented that will kind of lend some, information to our topic today? Can you share the story of maybe start to finish of the claim?
Sure. We've, handled so many different types of toxic exposure claims over the years, from benzene to Roundup weed killer, asbestos, all of the things that you've probably heard about, maybe seen TV advertisements. So it's pretty expansive what we've dealt with. Hair straighteners, it's a very new case type that we're getting into. And so maybe that's not the best thing for me to go from start to finish on the case. But I'm thinking of, a client that we represented in the past for a benzene claim. This woman came to us. She had been exposed to benzene and had developed.
What is that?
Sure, you will find that in all types of fuel, very low amount of benzene. You can find in regular gasoline when you fill up at the pump, but also super high concentrations in jet fuel. Now, historically, women don't work, in that field. There's various ways to be exposed. We've represented many people that were in the Navy, for example, that were exposed to benzene, a lot of military members. And so that's one way. You can also find it, in different things in the automotive sector, with some products that they've used to clean, engine parts. Don't want to bore you with the details, but that gives you, it's really industrial.
Right. Okay. Right? I've never heard of it, which is why I asked. And I'm pretty sure maybe most of our audience is not.
Sure.
Of course. The Roundup one, because that's, lawn fertilizer thing, or, and everybody heard about it, but sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So this woman came to us because she had developed it's called AML, which stands for acute myelogenous leukemia. And when she came to us, she was very ill and wanted to make a claim. So we took her on as a client. And she sent me a very sweet note when she sent back the paperwork to us, telling, thanking me that we were taking her case And within 11 days of when she wrote that note, she passed. So we ended up, making the claim on behalf of her widower. But to this very day, I keep a copy of that letter in my office because there's always what I call faces behind cases, right?
Mhm.
There's
Mhm.
always a person with some type of a life-changing illness or injury. And that just is never lost on me, no matter how many cases we take, there is always a story, a life, a person. And I have always kept that letter here because it reminds me how important the work is that we do.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's why it's really important.
Okay, all right. So you were able to continue her claim and get the family reimbursed for her for for this benzene thing, correct?
Sure,
Right.
sure.
Okay. So how were you guys able to connect the dots? How did she know that benzene? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking Aaron Brockovich. That's only
Right.
movies is basically my only intro into this topic.
Sure.
But how were you able to connect the benzene to her condition?
Of course. And that is difficult, especially with benzene. A lot of times there can be multiple chemicals that people are exposed to in the workplace.
Mhm.
Um, and so oftentimes, especially with benzene, there are multiple defendants. And oftentimes it even settles in stages because we're going after, different defendants. And so it's really just linking they'll tell you what products they used and linking the concentration of benzene. Many of these cases can go back, decades from when they were exposed and they later, developed these conditions. Hair straightener, obviously, we're going to speak of, is really no different. You always have people that will dominate a market and have the largest part of a market share. And so that's kind of how you go back and connect the dots, look at the products, make claims against multiple defendants. And we were able to, again, get compensation for her widower, her husband, from these defendants. And that was meant to, compensate him for the loss of his wife. There's something in the law that we call loss of consortium. And that's really the loss of companionship, the loss of the years he didn't have with his wife to enjoy time together. And also the loss of, this sounds old fashioned, but it's still relevant under the law. And that's the duties that the wife would perform at home, right?
Oh,
Housekeeping and
wow.
all of those. It sounds really outdated, I know. The
No, no, no,
loss.
no, it's not outdated. Women still do those things. But what I'm saying wow at is that you can make a claim for that. That's nice.
Absolutely. And even under the law for children, it's horrible when they, young children, sometimes we have for different claims, they use a mom that very early in life, and all of that loss of companionship, can be a pretty significant portion of a settlement or a verdict.
Okay, well, that's good. So all right, so that's awesome. So that's an excellent story. Postpartum, not postpartum, whatever that word is, post deceased,
Yeah,
that you still continue with the claim, especially with death.
absolutely.
That probably increased the compensation a lot. So that's awesome. All right, so let's get to our topic. As a Black woman, I have used, hair straightener products for 30 years or so.
Sure.
I don't use them a lot now because, I started using, weaving and wigs and things like that. But
Mhm.
normally, our population wants straighter hair. It's easier to deal with. It looks better. So we use them, and even the men. if we go back to movies like Malcolm X, and the men straighten their hair. So so we've been using it for years. So tell us now what's going on where they have linked, certain diseases or cancers to relaxers and hair straighteners. Now, I'm assuming we're bundling in the same lump, right? Now, we call it relaxers because it relaxes or curls. I'm not sure if Caucasian people use hair straightener. Is it predominantly for the Black community or not?
Yes, I would
Okay.
say so. We've used, several different terms to describe these claims, hair relaxers, hair straighteners. And we've even had a couple of clients that referred to it as a perm of sorts, but not
Yes, true.
as we
It's true.
think about it, curling of the hair, actually
Yeah,
the
we do.
opposite.
Yeah. We do
But
call it a perm, but then, when you call it a perm, then, it kind of infringes on the white population because you guys use perm to curl up your hair. But I understand that's what we call them. But all right. So what is the data that suggests that these products cause cancer? So talk to us about that. What's the linking or whatever? I guess we're doing a total Erin Brockovich here.
well, a very good film, right? Erin Brockovich, a fantastic film. And also, before I launch into it, you mentioned, Malcolm X. And when we started this project, I immediately thought of that film with Denzel Washington, sitting in the chair, and just how awful and
Yes,
painful that
yes,
was to
it is.
try to, straighten, his hair.
Right.
And it's funny you brought that up because when we got this project, I immediately thought of that scene, right?
Right.
And the
That's the same
study,
scene I went to, even though I do it myself. But that's the scene that I went to. The pain that they had to go through when it was just starting. Now, it's not as bad now because they have refined the product. But in those days, it was extremely painful.
sure. And on a side note, what also came up is I thought about a book that I read in college, which was Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. And we
Yeah, I read that
always
too.
right? And we always want something that we don't have, just really in every respect,
Mhm.
I have straight hair. My mom permed my hair, when I was when I was a kid, right?
She wanted it curlier. You see, that's what I said.
Absolutely.
The perm is transferable to the white population, right?
Absolutely. I remember sitting in the beauty shop, and I'd go in with my hair one length and I'd come out and it'd be 2-3 inches shorter, right? Because of the curls. But we all want what we don't have. There's some truth to that. Let that sit and percolate. But back to your question, there are studies which have linked a 2.5%, a 2.5 times increased risk of developing uterine cancer among those that use hair relaxer products. And so, as you can well imagine, that primarily affects Black and brown populations. So it's, that's who use the products. And so there's also linkage to ovarian cancer and endometrial cancer, and less severe, but is painful and can result in surgery, uterine fibroids, also a higher occurrence of those in women that use the hair relaxer products. Yeah, but think about that, a 2.5 times more likely to develop uterine cancer among women who've used these products.
Wow.
Significant.
Yeah, that is amazing. I had heard rumors of this for a while now. When I say rumors, people talking in social media kind of thing. But now that we're giving data, it's not hearsay anymore, it's data. So what are the products that are causing these cancers that is in these relaxers? Now, before you answer that, the new relaxers are coming out that are calling themselves no lie. So is the lie that is causing this? And if you take out the lie, does it make it safer?
Well, there's all kinds of chemicals which have been found in these types of products, even including Brazilian blowouts, formaldehyde, if you can think about that,
Okay.
And lye. There's so many chemicals that are toxic that are used in these products. And, a variety of brands. There's certainly people that have the market share, manufacturers that have the market share. I think everyone's familiar with Dark and Lovely, right?
Right.
It's a huge brand, huge brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with these products, the manufacturers continued to add these. We see a lot of items, a lot of, relaxer products coming to market that are more quote unquote natural. Even still, I'm not saying they have the same toxic chemicals, but they're still, they're still not natural. They carry a lot of, toxic chemicals. If you knew truly what they were, you might think twice about putting them on your hair, and in your scalp.
Okay. Right.
And one of the things that I'd like to mention is, the FDA doesn't test these products before going to market, yet they are in charge of really policing that, hair products. And so, the goal is with this litigation is to affect change. That's always what we try to do. Where a governmental agency fails us, the legal teams step in, A, try to right wrongs, but B, also, affect long-lasting change. And we've seen it time and again. And so that's always the goal with this type of litigation.
Yeah, that's great. So a lot of times things starts with one person, like the Erin Brockoviches, that we're going to talk about her a lot. She decided that, she saw something unusual and she investigated it. So I know that because, this lawsuit's going on right now, that maybe someone has won a case and now everybody is going after it. Is that what happened? That somebody was able to connect the dots and win a large settlement because they're able to prove that this relaxer caused this cancer?
Sure. Let me explain a little bit about how the process works too. There's something called multi-district litigation, and it's called MDL in legal parlance. And what happens is you'll have a new case type like hair relaxers. There's, no cases that have been won as of yet. But what happens is lawyers start taking on cases, and then there will be what are called bellwether trials. And I always compare those to, you go out to the pool, you want to see if it's warm, you dip your foot in there, you can figure out if it's hot, if it's cold.
Yeah. Okay.
And then based on, how those bellwether trials go, then that can often bring the defendants, these hair relaxer manufacturers, to the negotiating table. And that's really kind of the process. And I do want to clarify for your listeners that it's not a class action. It's really not. We all get those postcards in the mail. You've been overcharged for phone service, and guess what? You're going to get a nickel.
I know, I was about to say that. $2.
Yeah. So, or even worse, you had a bad experience with the business, they're going to offer you a credit or a gift card so you can go back and use their services.
Right.
But people take a very cynical view, and I think, rightly so, of class actions, but this is different. Again, it's multi-district litigation. And the reason that exists is there are not enough courtrooms in America to allow for, a trial for each and every case. case. There's just not. So what happens is both parties come together and they come up with some ground rules, some rules for discovery, right? And how things will proceed. And that just streamlines the process. So that's actually beneficial for, plaintiffs in these, because it speeds it along, allows them to see, a settlement, justice sooner rather than later. So I wanted to clarify that process a little bit. So no, there have not been any trials as of yet. It's really that more what's prompting this litigation to move forward are studies, that come out. Science is improving all the time, and we learn about new things that we thought were safe decades ago. That's what
That's
it's coming
awesome.
about.
Somebody has identified that those products cause cancer, and now they just got to put it together, and marry them. And well, listen, I'm hoping that 90% of the women that use relaxers, I shouldn't say, well, 90% of Black women have used relaxers, and if they're listening and they're having these uterine fibroid cancers, then this is basically what we're at the end of our conversation, we'll have your contact information that they can start the process. But tell me first, more about, who are you representing? Tell me more about the hair straightening lawsuits your firm is pursuing at this moment.
Sure. Primarily, it's you tend to develop conditions again, decades after use or exposure to products. So I would say we're really seeing 50 plus, right? 50 years and older. Women coming to us. Of course, there's always outliers and exceptions to the rules. And we certainly see, late 30s also with a horrible, uterine cancer or ovarian cancer diagnosis. But it does trend a bit older. That's what we're seeing so far. And but you'll always, regardless, you'll always have people from all over the spectrum, and it goes across socioeconomic lines, age, and everything you can think of, right, that makes us different.
Heaven forbid, I just had a thought, Dark and Lovely, they do have a kids product too.
Exactly. And we've had clients that have told us, well, my mom would put this on my hair. I had a kindergarten graduation and mom put this on my hair for the photos, or it was picture day at school. And I'll tell you, one of the worst things that we've found since we started the litigation is they have found in some of the children's formulations a higher level, if you can imagine this, of the toxic chemicals, not across the board, but in certain formulations. The kids actually had a higher, in one of the children's products. And that's just so scary. My mom would never have applied that if she would have known,
I know, that's just wicked, because you would have thought, I think that when you get the kids product, that it is less strong. You know what I mean? And it would have less of the chemicals.
Absolutely.
Wow. So to put more on their tender little scalps, that's terrible, right?
It's unlike any other products. You get like a children's aspirin or children's cough syrup. It's always going to have, or so we think, should have a lesser dosage than what is provided to the adults. But again, I do want to clarify that's not across every children's product ever. But the fact that testing has revealed that in some of them is just unbelievable. It is.
Wow. Okay. So, why are you so passionate about pursuing these hair straightener claims? Do you have a personal story?
Yeah, I think that, it's a combination of a couple of things I already mentioned, which is, faces behind the cases. There is a
Mm,
life out there, and every life has a family attached to it. And so it's not just affecting the woman, maybe who develops uterine cancer, but everyone in the extended family, children, etc., sisters, mom.
yeah.
So that always makes me passionate, is there's a person behind the case.
Mhm.
Also, as I mentioned earlier, trying to right the wrongs. When you think that a governmental entity is going to protect us, be it the FDA, maybe the EPA in some cases, but the FDA here, who would regulate hair products and different, products that we use every day.
Mhm.
And if I might mention, if your readers may be interested, there was a wonderful book that I read a couple of years ago. It's by Catherine Eban. I believe you spell her name Eban. Don't quote me on that, but the title
Okay.
is called Bottle of Lies. And
Oh,
it's
wow.
about FDA regulation of pharmaceuticals and how you have really a revolving door sometimes where you will have people that work in the FDA who are monitoring and there to protect us, with what, drug companies are doing, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then they will leave there and they will immediately go and lobby. There'll be a lobbyist for the drug
Wow.
company.
You're
And
kidding me.
so, a real
Wow.
conflict of
Well,
interest.
it's America is capitalistic and it's money drives it. Money
Yeah.
drives everything. Yeah.
And and so in that sense, people we think are going to protect us in organizations, don't. So I'm passionate about that. We really do. We really do. As a plaintiffs bar and lawyers pursuing these cases, we really do bring justice and affect change. So that's something that makes me really passionate.
Yeah. Yeah.
An- Another reason I'm very passionate about this is, as we were discussing, people will use, hair relaxers for special occasions. As
Mhm.
part of the evidence for these cases, we are having our clients send in photographs of them with their hair relaxed. And I'll tell you, you know what they are? Again, school graduations, weddings, all the most important days of your life.
Yeah.
That's when they use this product. And
Right.
so, trying to, look their best, right?
That's right.
Um,
Yes.
and I think
No
too
judgment.
about,
Yeah.
yeah. And I also think about too, even the societal pressure, right?
Mhm.
To not have natural hair
Yeah.
in the workplace, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm here in California. We passed a Crown Act. You can no longer discriminate for someone wearing natural hair, in the workplace.
Can you
And
believe that the fact that they had to pass a law that is just so ridiculous? Yeah, which is basically why if we're looking behind, sure, black women, black men, we have really kinky hair and it's hard to manage, and that's where these relaxers products came in. But then there was a movement, probably started with the Malcolm X era where women were wearing their natural, and you're right, they were discriminated against. In fact, Colin Kaepernick, in his movie, when he had braids, his coach told him that he couldn't be on the team with those braids, and,
yep,
and that's why he keeps his hair out right now to protest the fact that someone
right,
told him way back. And then his father, because he was adopted and his father was white, was telling him, yeah, you got to get rid of those braids. They don't look professional. So, yeah, we have come through all these things. And now look at it. On the flip side, it's something else that's killing us. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
yes, yeah, you go for an interview and you go with braids and they wouldn't hire you. So,
right.
yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
glad that we're bringing, bringing this information to the forefront, because this conversation is not only, going towards the fact that women are getting uterine cancers for it, but we're talking about culture, we're talking about society, we're talking about the women that, right, relax their hair because it looks better, burn their scalps, because that thing burns. You come away with, I relax my hair, I come away with a lot of sores in my head because the thing,
Oh,
I always have tender scalp. And if you want it to be straight, you got to leave it on.
yeah.
So we go through that pain, then, but if we were mindful, would have known that anything that's burning your head like that couldn't be any good for you, which is why I asked you about the lye, because maybe 90% of the products now are called no lye and they don't burn, but they probably replaced the lye with something just as bad. It just doesn't burn. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the process is what? Inherently unnatural, isn't it? The hair is not left in a natural state. And one of the things as you mentioned in the intro, I've lived coast to coast. I've been in the Midwest, in Texas, lived in Manhattan. Los Angeles is my home. I love this city so much. We are a melting pot. With that comes its own problems, but at the end of the day, it is just the greatest city in the world. I truly believe that. And I'm so proud to be in California because we are progressive and we're progressive with our laws. That's why we passed the Crown Act, and yet it hasn't been passed at the national level. But I feel like the change that we implement here often ripples across the country, right? Eventually that moves on and can be adopted later on. And I'm really proud to be a Californian. I've got to tell you, I really feel at home here.
Well, that's
And
nice.
you
Yeah, well,
know
you're right. The movie industry is where California is at, and because of that, they have some power because they're also wealthy. And again, we're talking about money, and money rules most things. And so I'm glad that California is becoming a leader in all these things,
sure,
whether it has to do with integration, whether it has to do with, diversity and all these, accepting people where they are, whether they're Black or, Muslim or all that,
sure,
all that stuff. You're right. That's amazing that, that California is leading in that.
sure.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to mention for your listeners is that Senator Cory Booker, who I just love, tried to get a national Crown Act passed last month by unanimous vote, and it failed.
Wow.
They expect to bring it back to the floor this year. And so I would just encourage your listeners to reach out to their senators and representatives, even if it's just an email, and say, I support this and I want you to support it too. I think it's really important.
Nice. All right. Well, that's good. All right. All right, listeners, you have some homework. All right, so let's get to the crux of our conversation. So your company are helping, women and men. I'm assuming you might have some even men. Well, no, because it's uterine cancers. So your office is helping women submit claims. So how can someone listen? What can someone that's listening, if they have, you can list again the known cancers,
Sure.
and how they can contact you. What is the first step? What do they do?
Sure. And you know what, Myrna, you were right. We do represent some men. They're unfortunately widowers. They lost their wife
Oh,
to,
okay. All right. Okay.
uterine cancer. And
Okay.
also, of course, male children, we do represent them as well. But yes, we primarily, the client base is female,
Mhm.
and we are accepting cases with uterine cancer diagnosis, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, and then lastly, certain uterine fibroid cases where there's actually surgical intervention, right? Where it requires a surgery. It's a little more invasive than some of the other uterine fibroid treatments, but that's for us to make a decision on a case-by-case basis. So if one of your listeners was thinking that they may qualify, the first step would be to reach out to us or another law firm and request that free consultation. Because in this industry, I always say we give the every man and the every woman keys to the courthouse. And how do we do that? Contingency fee. We don't collect a fee unless a recovery is made, because let me tell you, if we had to charge up front, we wouldn't have any clients. So many people in this country live paycheck to paycheck. So this model of representation, again, gives everybody an equal playing field, keys to the courthouse. So that would really be the first step, is to reach out to, us or another law firm and get the free consultation and find out if you qualify.
And how do you qualify? How do you know if they qualify?
We would just ask them really a series of questions. Of course, we have to get medical records, documenting, confirming the uterine cancer diagnosis sometimes, or the other, cancer or fibroid diagnosis. But sometimes, clients have those documents readily available. Most don't. And so that's the process, is they would hire us, and then we would, request the medical records, document all of the treatment that they had to have. That obviously adds value to the claim. It's, chemo is not fun. That's an understatement. It's, wrenching. It's so difficult to go through. I recently lost someone. The funeral's actually next weekend. She passed from uterine cancer, and she'd already been through a round of chemo and just couldn't do it. They just said, you know what, that's it. I can't do it again. So so we request all records.
Yeah. Okay. And how do you make the relaxer connection? Do they have to prove that they've been taking relaxers?
Yes, we would ask them to, give us the history if they can remember the products, because there are so many out there. We ask about 20 different products, that are, again, the lion's share of the market, and assuredly they've used at least one.
Right. Okay.
And typically, women will use those, 4+ times a year. That increases the exposure and therefore our ability to link, the product to cancer. But it's through that, possibly signing an affidavit stating that, yes, I use this product. I used it, this many times a month or a year. Kind of documenting that way. Haven't had it yet, but in other litigation, people will still have product packaging around the house. We have an evidence locker here that stores that. I have not had that happen yet. I think by nature of the product, you use it, you lose it, you throw it out, right? But there's different ways to document it. Yeah.
Well, you could be still using it, to be quite honest. But yeah, one of the things about, relaxers is that once you open it, it loses its whatever. So they tell you to throw it out. But people can be listening to this right now that are still using the relaxers because they weren't aware that there was anything wrong with them. And nobody is, very few women go around with their natural hair. It's a very small percentage. So they're still using it. So they might be able to still have those, evidence of the relaxers. Now, as you were talking, something interesting popped up for me. because I had uterine fibroids and I had surgery, maybe 10 years ago for it.
Wow.
And then it's a very common predicament for, I'm not even sure if it's Black women, but maybe we'll say Black women because that's the sample that I know.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I told you I've used relaxers for like 30 years. So let's say that because fibroids it's I don't think that's not cancer. It's just an overgrowth of your lining, right? And
Yes, correct.
it causes bleeding, and then they go in and they take them out, kind of thing.
Right.
But a lot of women that I know have those. So let's address those for a minute. How can you help
Sure.
with
Sure. So again, with the uterine fibroids that are, removed, surgically, typically, in a hospital setting, as opposed to some different types of
Yeah, I
procedures
was in
that
the
can,
hospital.
yeah. And a lot of women have hysterectomies, right?
Yeah.
To help remedy that.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
yeah.
My
The one,
sister did.
yeah, the
My
ones,
sister did. I meant, and I'm sure she used relaxers. I'll talk to her about this.
there you
Yes.
go,
Mhm.
have, have, have
I
her
know,
call
we're
us.
having personal experience here.
Yeah. Yeah, and the ones that the cases that we are looking at, but not currently accepting are, a procedure that would be done in office, something less invasive. And sometimes there can be what's called an ablation procedure. It's a very short procedure, doesn't take a lot of time, but yes, if you're in a hospital setting, for uterine fibroids or again, hysterectomy, something of that nature, yeah, we would like to speak with you and
Wow,
evaluate a claim.
wow,
Absolutely.
nice. You hear that, ladies? That probably is 50% of you. All right, so that's amazing. So tell our audience how they can connect with you. Website, emails, phone numbers, however you want to, however you guys are doing, starting the claim process.
Sure, sure. So probably the best way would be to call me, and that is at 1-800-718-4658. And I'll give it to you one more time. It's 1-800-718-4658. I could give out my email address, but it is so long. I would hate to do it. It's very long. We are currently building out a website. It is not live yet, but it will be shortly, and it is toxicstraightener.com. If any listeners wanted to find us today, they could go to personal injury law, LAW, cal.com. And you can read all about hair straightener. We have multiple blog posts, pages, lots of information there.
All right, let me repeat the last one. So it's Personal Injury Cal, which is CAL for like California.
It's personal injury law, so LAWCAL. Yeah.
Okay, .com.
Yeah.
All right, and so is that the good way to contact you, or you want to give the email? Because I will have all this information in the show notes. So go ahead and give it.
Okay, sure. So the email is my first initial last name. So it's JPOOLE at personalinjurylawcal.com. That is a long email.
Personal Injury Law. And what comes after that?
CAL, like
Oh,
California,
Cal. Okay, so it's like
.com.
right. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Not a problem. All right. So thank you, Jennifer, for coming and sharing this information with us, with me and my listening audience. There are things that we do in life that we're, you know, like you said, we're putting on hair straighteners because it makes us look better. It's easier to manage the hair. It's more professional, all those different things. And then on the flip side of that, it's like the Aaron Brockovich, where your kids are swimming in the pool and they're coming out with cancers. You know what I mean? So, but until you tell them, hey, you know, the water you're drinking is giving your kids cancer, you're going to continue drinking the water. So here we're letting, you know, people know that once they've heard this information, because one of my favorite quotes is that a brain that's been expanded with knowledge can never go back. So now that you know that these chemical relaxers, unless there is a relaxing company out there that specifically says that it's all natural and there it doesn't cause cancer, and you know, it's probably failed marketing, but we know that we shouldn't use these products because you're going to get uterine cancer and nobody wants cancers. Now, the fibroid thing, like I said, I've had it, my sisters have it, or kids have it, and we've all used relaxers, whether it's correlation or what, but it's worth looking into and making a claim for it. You're right, especially if it led to hysterectomy, because you're right, a lot of times that's what they have to do. They have to take out the womb in order to stop all this heavy bleeding that you have every month.
That's right.
So yeah, so now that our brains have been expanded, you know, information, where do you call or you email Jennifer and you start the process, because, you know, retribution, we're supposed to be reimbursed for our pain,
Right.
you know, and I'm glad that somebody is doing it, and I thank you, Jennifer, for you know, coming on and talking to my audience. You know, the radio show is in Atlanta, Georgia, which is predominantly Black area, and you know, the podcast is worldwide, and you know, hopefully we pass this on to, you know, my national audience. And I'm thinking right now of the UK, and there's so many Black women in the UK that listen to the podcast. So hopefully we're so that's a question. You have the people outside the United States?
We can only help US citizens. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So as I'm saying that, you know, marketing to the UK for you, but the point is that now that they're aware, they can
That's right.
find a lawyer in the UK. You know what I mean? You can only
Yeah.
handle the American one. So that's great. So
Well,
yeah,
that's
I go ahead.
that's fine too. You know, you're getting the word out about, you
Yes,
know, the potential
yes,
dangers of the products. So
yes,
tell the world, you know, if anybody's using those, right?
yes,
So
yes.
absolutely. I am so grateful for you allowing me to come on and, you know, share this important
You're welcome.
information. I think it's
Yes.
extremely important. So thank you. I really appreciate it, Myrna.
It's life-saving information. Now, how often do we have that? Life-saving information. Ladies, do not put these products on your kids' hair. My goodness, because they do. They do. They don't want to comb the hair. The kids cry when you comb the hair. So what do? You relax it. Listen, I've been there, done that. So yes, thank you. Our brain has been expanded with some information. So this is good information. You guys know that a transcript of my conversation with Jennifer will be on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. If you missed her phone number or email or website, it will be listed there. So you can just head over to the show page and you would find that information. And yeah, get some money for your suffering.
There you go.
So thank you, Jennifer. This was a very eye-opening conversation. Maybe even I have a claim, who knows? You know, but I definitely talked to my sister about it. Yes. Right. Awesome. Awesome. I'll have her call you.
All right.
All right. Any last words before we wrap up?
No, that's it. I just, again, I just really appreciate, being able to come on and share the important information. Very passionate about this particular litigation in particular. So thank you, Marinette.
Well, that's good. Yes. When you're passionate about something, you want to help other people. So that's beautiful. Yeah,
Absolutely.
help other people. So thank you very much. All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Transform Your Mind. Transform your mind to transform your life. So hopefully today we're able to transform your life with this information. Stop using the chemical relaxers because no good can come out of it. And definitely do not put them in your kids' hair. So you learned it here first, hopefully. And if you know someone who has any of the uterine cancers or fibroids, and you know that they've used relaxers all their lives, have them reach out to Jennifer. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.